Well, good morning. Today we are going to go over the Keystroke mail module. This is a new feature of version 7.15 that allows you to email directly from the Keystroke program. And again, welcome to our Keystroke Live. It's the April 11th. And as we do now, we are going to be doing our 9 o'clock Mountain Time on Thursdays is when we regularly do our Keystroke POS Live, and today we're going over KeyMail. Let's talk about, I'm going to go ahead and first mute everybody at this time. If you do need to ask a question, please use the chat down below. So I'll go ahead and click on the mute here. All right, very good. So we're going to talk about the Keystroke mail module, also known as KeyMail. Inside of Keystroke, we've added a communication server, an email communication server, allowing us to send different forms and different things through the Keystroke program and sending emails. The setup is very similar to KeyPay. For those of you that have set up KeyPay, you'll recognize the screens and the setup are almost identical in many different facets. We're going to go over the printer settings in Keystroke that shows you how you actually make it work, where we've added a new port called Mail. And in this, just like KeyPay, we can have multiple accounts, meaning you can have one copy of KeyMail running but have different accounts set up for different users, so that an email from my desk might come from Mike T at Keystroke POS, but an email sent from, let's say, Nick's machine might come from Nick V at KeyStrokePOS.com. And we can also install the KeyMail program as a service, and that's on the CD, and we will have links available to download it from the website if you don't have a CD. Well, let me jump into Keystroke, and we'll start talking about the setup, and then we'll do a few things inside of Keystroke, and then I'll show you the KeyMail program itself. As you see, I'm on version 7.15 of Keystroke, build 22 in this case, and this is not available in older versions of Keystroke. It is available in both Keystroke POS and Keystroke Advanced POS. I'm going to first just go into Configuration Manager, and we'll take a look at the printer setup. As you may be aware, I'm using our Keystroke sample data. In version 7.15, we have set up a few printers already to print to PDFs. We've set up printers to print to emails, and we've have different forms that we use. And we can print anything from a sales transaction to a purchase order, to AR, accounts receivable statements. Next week, Dave Hunsinger will be going over the accounts receivable portion. I'll just be showing you the setup for the Keystroke mail module. Under hardware and printers, this is where we're going to start in Keystroke. And let's take a look. This is actually what gets shipped with our tutor data at this time. You'll see down here we've set up a few things. We've set up an email printer, an invoice to a PDF file, which we're actually going to use in this example today. So let's first take a look at our email printer. Very simple setup. We use our standard Windows driver, and in most cases the driver could be set to none. In this case, Windows would also be an option. There's really no formatting happening when we send it to the port. Let's take a look at the new ports. We talk about the mail port, MAIL:. This has already been set up, and when I hit enter on this, this is similar to like the KeyPay settings, where we could use some different setups, but we want to keep this simple. Usually these fields are all left blank. The server port and the port number are usually 0. There may be a time, just like in KeyPay, where you might have two network cards, one that needs to talk to the outside world and one that talks to the internal LAN, and that's where you could use different IP addresses. The settings ID is what I mentioned before, where we can put in a different settings ID. For instance, I could put in Mike as a settings ID, or Nick as a settings ID. There is a test KeyMail button. I do not have KeyMail running. Actually, I think I do. I'm going to shut it down. Okay, so if I were to click on the test KeyMail button, you can see it's going to try to actually communicate via TCP/IP from Keystroke to the Keystroke mail module, and it can't do that. So it comes back with an error that it failed. I'm going to just say OK here. I'm going to just open up KeyMail. It's KeyMail.exe is the executable. I'm going to run it down here. It actually just loaded. I'm going to switch screens here and show you what it looks like. It was down on the bottom. Now I've gone ahead and opened it up. It looks very similar to KeyPay, where we have the settings button, the hide, which brings it back down to the taskbar at the bottom, and shutdown, which turns it off. So I'm going to click on settings. Very similar to KeyPay, we have a password if you would like to use one for just KeyMail. This is not your password for email. This is a password for the settings in KeyMail. When we open this up here, this is showing our settings ID, very similar to KeyPay. I can add a new ID in case I could actually set up, let's say I'm the only user of this, but I have maybe a Hotmail account, a Windows Live account. I might have a Outlook account. In my case, it's a KeyStrokePOS.com account. Taking a look at the defaults here. Right now, it just says process through email. We're leaving this available for future requests and different settings in the future. So that's the only setting at this time. I've already set this up and tested it. That's why you'll see some settings already in here. Normally, you would come in and would say SMTP server would say something like mail.youremail.com or something like that. So I've set this up. These are our settings for the eSupport account. We recommend using this port number 587, and we'll show you in a little bit that we do have some F1 help on what these settings should be for different email providers, which will help out. And I'll just go through these fields and I'll show you that help screen. In my case, my account name is eSupport. I've got a password in there. When I do send an email out, I could actually change the from to be a different, it could be a company name like Specialized Business Solutions. It could be just my name, Mike Tabor. The from email is actually going to be where the reply goes back to. So I can send this, but say I want to actually have the replies go back to support at versus eSupport at. And just like KeyPay, the data directory, this is where KeyMail is monitoring for email requests. I've set this up for C Keystroke Tutor. And again, most of this stuff is left blank at the bottom, and the password is optional. But let me jump back into Keystroke and show you where we can find these settings. Now that KeyMail is running, I'm going to go back to Keystroke. Here we are where we left off in Keystroke. And now I'll click on that test KeyMail button here. And you can see it does a very quick little test, not like the KeyPay where KeyPay actually would do like multiple requests. It just says, here's one request. I got an answer back from KeyMail, and there's that. Now when I say OK here, there's a little bit more to this. There is actually a test. So I can put in an address to test it here. I'm not going to do an attachment at this time. We'll show you that later. And then I'm going to click on Send. It's sending an email at this time. It tells me that it was sent successfully. I'll say OK to this. Back to the mail parameters. I'm going to say OK here. And that's our setup. It's just give it a name. Driver could be none. In this case, we use Windows. Port is mail. And notice the 00 at the end of that. That's just because we haven't defined any specific IP addresses. And we're not really going to ever use the forms run command at this time. So I'll say OK to that. And I just heard that I've got some email. So let me open up my email program. Bounce around here. Inbox. All right, here is the test. This is what the header looks like. It's from Mike Tabor. It says test of KeyMail. That's what I typed in. I'll open that mail up. Hope I got to switch applications here. Here's what the actual email looks like, and it's from Mike Tabor. Shows my email address. It was to eSupport, test of KeyMail. Then I typed in test, test, test. This was just done in the setup for ports in the printer. So this was just a test to make sure everything is talking to itself. And that's that. I'm going to go ahead and delete this just to keep my inbox clean. And we'll go show you how it works back in Keystroke. Now I mentioned we do have some help on different settings. Let me go ahead and show you the help screen. I'm going to hit right here. I'm going to hit F1. Might have to switch my screen again. There we go. So it's under printer ports. It can also be found under index and typing in email. And here we have email. Email from within Keystroke using KeyMail. There's some common email settings using the mail printer port. I'll cancel this and I'll show you where most people might run into it. They would just click on the printer port, and here they would see the mail option right here. And it says use with KeyMail to send emails from within Keystroke, and it talks about setting up the port if you need it. What I do want to do is down here at the bottom we have let's go ahead and click on the using the mail printer port. There's a lot of detail here. You almost don't need to know this. What is good about this is that we do have at the bottom common email provider settings. This would be a great thing to print out and have with you when you're setting it up, because people have different, let's say a Gmail account, here's a Windows Live account, or Hotmail, MSN. Hope this says live. Huh. I think I'm going to have to take a look at that. So these are different settings, but what we'll find out is the ports are pretty much the same. The only real trick in the setup is actually if you're going to have to use encryption or not. And some email providers use that and some do not. Okay, back to the settings. So in here we might have different ports that we could set up, but this is where you go in and select add an ID. I could actually set up, let's say, Gmail. I'm just using uppercase. And then I could come in here and type in different things like smtp. Now let me do smtp.gmail.com. And you'll see the program actually turned the port to 485. It kind of knows a lot of these defaults already. And then you would put in your name. And I don't have a Gmail account, but if I did, it would be like MikeT@Gmail. And this is where, even though I might be sending things out through Gmail, I could kind of spoof the email address and say, no, it's really coming from eSupport@. So to maybe make sure that the replies go back to a different address. I'm going to go ahead and just set that back to the default. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. When you hit save, it's just like KeyPay. And I'm going to hide this. And now let's go back into Keystroke. And I'll show you some other setups. So again, we've already set up this printer right here to be our email printer. I've also set up, and we went through this in the previous Keystroke POS Live, where we can print things to PDFs. It seems very nice and neat to actually send the emails with all your information in a PDF. People can't tamper with that file. They could, of course, try to modify it and edit it and so forth, but it's always nice to have everything in one file. We've already set this up. Let's take a look at the print buttons. So I'll save this. And again, these settings are all set up in our sample data. And we've actually set up a couple print buttons. This one's called Email Attachment. Let me show you how this works here. What this is doing here at this time, it's going to use on all transactions. It's going to use form number 1 here, which is this invoice blue form. It's actually going to print that to the PDF file. So we're going to actually use our standard form. It's kind of, this has a little graphic on it. And we're going to print it to that Windows printer. So it's going to create a file called invoice. The ampersand is replaced by the invoice number.pdf. Once it's done printing that, it's going to move on to form number 2. It's going to use this form called EM for email attach.nvc. And this is really what is happening, where Keystroke knows where to send the email to, what kind of subject you like it to read, and what kind of body language you might like to see inside there. So what kind of text you're going to put in the body of the email. We'll go ahead and leave this screen up. Well, actually, let's save this. So let's go back a step. So looking at this, it's going to create a PDF file using this INV Blue. It's going to print a form called email attach, which actually has the subject and who it's being sent to and what the attachment is. And it's going to send it to the email printer, which we've already set up. So before I show you all the good stuff, the final results, I'm going to go show you the form to show you a few of these things. So let's talk about the EM attached form. Here it is here. What's important for KeyMail is it knows, number 1, who am I going to send the email to? And we've set these forms up to actually send it to the customer's email address, which is most intuitive. The subject is going to say sales transaction from and then our company name, and it's set up as Specialized Business Solutions in this tutor data. The attachment is going to be invoice and then the invoice number.pdf. We have used lines 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, so there's actually 6 lines there as form messages. So you can actually customize this without having your end user have to call you for form customization, but you can actually make a form very similar to this if you wanted lots of text. For instance, you could go through here and put in, hard code some text in here, or put in, let's say, form messages, 80 through 100 or something like that. You could put in as much as you want. We kind of have some reserved form messages for Keystroke. And for instance, we have the same kind of form for purchase orders. So if I go to purchase order, I've got an emattach.por file. This is pretty much the same, but it's going to use the vendor's email. It's going to say purchase transaction from, and it's actually going to say the order number or the PO number or the invoice number.pdf. And here it uses lines 50 through 55, another 6 lines that can be kind of customized for that use. Well, let's go take a quick look at the final result. So if I go to Sales Manager, if you notice, for some time now, we've actually, or version 7.15, we've actually set up all of our customers to have this email called test@keystrokepos.com. This is so you can demonstrate this. It would send an email to test@keystrokepos.com, and the sender would actually get a reply back that says, yes, your email was received by Specialized Business Solutions. But in my example here, I'm going to go ahead and change this. I'm going to say this person's email is esupport@keystrokepos.com. I'm going to save this. I'm going to use that customer. And let's sell this person some stuff. Let's do like 10 of these. Oh, let's say 25 of those. And there we go. So here's an invoice. It's going to be invoice number 39, as you can see. And I'll go ahead and just tender this with, let's say, a check. So So they wrote me a check for $414. I say okay. And here's the print buttons that we already have set up, ready to go right out of the box in our tutor data. I'm going to go ahead and select email attachment. So when I click this, it's actually writing to the file, then it's sending the file. So we should get a success message coming back here shortly. Or at least I think we should, unless my KeyMail stopped. There it comes. And normally it's a little quicker than that. I don't know if it's this machine I've been tinkering with all morning long. So there we go, and then it saved it. So what I have here is a couple of things. I've got a file that I've created, and then the email was sent out. I'll go ahead and go into my Outlook. Hit send and receive because I don't have this set up to send and receive all the time. And here's my email. So as we can see right here, the subject is sales transaction from my company name, Specialized Business Solutions. It's from Mike Tabor, and there's an attachment. I'll go ahead and open it up. Switch over so you can see it. Oop, there it is. All right, so here's what my email looks like. So it's a very simple email. The subject is going to be very similar, sales transaction from Specialized Business Solutions. And this is the 4 messages that I've chosen to use, and our tutor is set up this way. And it goes through, and here's my attachment. So you can doctor up this body of the section with 4 messages. You can actually make your own form to put graphics in here or logos if you wanted to. Our emattach.nvc form is just basically used for very simple stuff, 6 lines of text. We wanted to keep it simple. You can probably go crazy with this stuff if you'd like to. Let's take a look at the invoice I've created. I'll open it up, move over here to show it to you. All right, so there it is. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Well, I'll scroll down through it first. So this is actually a form that we ship that has our company logo. It uses the logo out of forms, out of Configuration Manager. It's got this blue background, a very simple open type format. It's got some totals down at the bottom, and I guess if you'd want to see what it would look like, that's kind of what it would look like if we print it. Really easy to use. Same thing happens in Purchase Manager. I can send out purchase orders the same way. Back to Keystroke here. We've already set up print buttons in Configuration Manager for purchasing. Wrong place. Print buttons for purchases. And right here we have an email button already set up. It uses very similar idea. This uses actually KSP11v.por, different form. Uses the attach.por to the email printer. And notice kind of the trick here, we do need to set up a printer for each type of file name. We like to use the word invoice, the number.pdf for sales invoices. We like to use the word order, the order number.pdf for purchase orders. And for statements, and you'll see that next week, statement, the actual customer number.pdf. That's how that's going to work. So if you had, let's say, one for orders, invoices on holds, quotes, you might have to set up 4 different printers if you want the file name to be different. If you just wanted it to be the number, number.pdf, that would be simple too. You just wouldn't have to set them all up. One last thing I'd like to show you here is the form messages, because we do use this in our sample data. For years and years, we've always used like the first 20 form messages. The first 3 were for receipts, 4 and 5 were for quotes, 4, 5, and 6 were for, or 6 and 7 were for purchases. Otherwise, I scroll down this list. Let's see. So we've kind of just set up like lines 40 to 46 are for sales. 50 through, oops, I skipped a little too far. 50 through 55 or for purchasing, 60 on down to 64 for statements. And as you can see, you've got lots of room to add things if you'd like. For instance, you can go 50 through 59 to have 10 actual lines of body text if you like to do it that way. So again, in a nutshell, I'm going to go ahead and just show the F1 help screen to show you how we can find this stuff. Just type in email, and up here is where it starts talking about the KeyMail program. Just tells you a little bit about it. There's setting up the port, the common email providers, PDF printing, and how to use the ports and so forth are kind of all there together. There's a lot of wording in here, a lot of information you could look at, but as you can see, leaving everything blank, using our sample stuff. And if you ever forget, don't forget to just open up our Keystroke POS with sample data, and you'll be able to see all of our settings set up, ready to go. Keep in mind, every time you do an installation of the Keystroke program, everything in your tutor folder gets replaced with our tutor data. So if you get it really set up and like it and have made many changes, make sure you make a backup or copy your tutor folder to some other location, and then it won't get overwritten during another install. Well, that's about it. I'm going to go ahead and open up the microphones here, unmute everybody, and if you have any questions, that would be a great time to ask, and we'll go from there. All right, does anyone have any questions for me?
Yeah, Mike?
Yes.
This is Scott Welch.
Yes.
I came in a little late. What version of, or what build is this going to be in, or is it already in the current build?
No, 715. The pre-release right now, you can call, I think we sent you a link, I believe. If not, just call any one of our support staff and we'll send you a link to get this latest version.
Okay, thank you.
Well, great. Well, thanks for your time. Again, it really is easy to set up. Oh, one last thing I did want to mention. Let me go back to here. This can be set up as a service, which can be run on one main server. And again, just like KeyPay, you only run it once. That'll be on the CD. We will have links off our website to be able to do that. And next week, Dave Hunsinger is going to be going over accounts receivable features where we have options to email statements, print statements, or both.
Mike, do you have an anticipated release date for 715 yet?
You know, we don't, but we're very close. We just started testing this build 22 that kind of fine-tuned a lot of the last few things. So as normal, we probably want to get more people out there using it. And so if anyone doesn't have it that's listening to this, please call us. We'd like to send you a link, get you to install it. Keep in mind, when you convert data, you can't go back to 710. So keep that in mind, okay? All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.